piece. So let's walk through some stuff here. Historically, what we've done in a lot of the classes is we've outlined the problem for you. So this is the one little twist that tends to get people a little bit messed up right off the bat here is we're not going to tell you what the problem is. You're going to tell us what the problem is. So let's go through what makes for a good problem. The objective that we have for the course, and here's the fancy lingo. You will convert an open-ended problem statement into a statement of work or a set of design specifications. Doesn't that sound good? What does it really mean? So your goal in this course then is to take a realistic, so something that's that's actual, something that's measurable, something that's real world problem. Notice that's the first thing we're going to focus on. It's a problem, and find a realistic technology solution for that problem. That's the overarching purpose of the course. Back that up. This statement is what we're going to spend the first week on. So by the time we come back next Monday, you'll be able to actually make a statement. Congratulations, you're going to make a statement. You'll probably only have one statement to make. And that's okay, because that's where we need to start. Without that in hand, we really can't go forward. Then we're going to take some time after that to roll through, well, how do we develop that to make sure that it's realistic, to make sure it's measurable, to make sure that it's a real world problem. This is where we'll work with you quite extensively on that. We're then going to ask you to take that problem that you set out and decompose it into subtasks, prioritize them, establish a timetable and milestones by which progress may be evaluated. This is the fancy language for the kind of stuff you started to learn how to do in 129. So in your project management course, we're going to ask you to bring some of those things back to the table and apply them into an actual problem. So what does it really mean? You're going to take that solution that you've had a problem, you come up with a solution, you're going to break it down into smaller, achievable tasks and milestones based on the time you have in the semester. This is probably the biggest constraint we have, which is that this has to fit into the length of time we've got in the semester. We're going to go through in more detail a little later on today what that looks like, what we think it should look like, and what we're going to hold you to on that. But that's our big one. And so we're going to spend some time over the next 3 weeks doing exactly that, taking that problem, breaking it down into its parts, and then starting to say, okay, is this really realistic? Is this going to happen for us in the time frame that we've got? So what's the foundations? As the guys mentioned, I've done this a few times, and so I can give you some strong advice around what works well for students and what doesn't. Even though it sounds good up front sometimes, the things that cause people a lot of grief down the line. So I can give you some heads ups on some of that stuff. So the first one is a foundation for a good project will assess a realistic IT problem for a real business or organization. And it will create a realistic, measurable solution. Okay, that's a really common one. We get that. And that's the one that most people would approach because they are familiar with something. Or maybe that's an organization that they're part of. And what they're going to address is some pain point that they encountered. You could assess an IT environment within an organization and build upon, enhance, or improve the existing technology workflows or processes. What I mean by that, so some of you have been out on co-op, or some of you have life experience where you've been in workplaces and you've seen things that you're going, why are you doing it that way? There's got to be a better solution for this. Okay, this is your opportunity to build that. Okay, so when you've seen something, some workflow in an organization that just seems really convoluted or out of date, or heaven forbid, uses things like Visual Basic and Internet Explorer, you can say, no, that's not good enough, people. Let's replace that with something that is. Okay. You could look at introducing a new technology where one either doesn't exist or possibly hasn't been previously considered. Okay. So the idea there is you've got a place where you've experienced where people are still doing things by hand, and you're going, okay, wait, we can automate some of this, or we can bring the tech onto the table for it to somehow make this a much more efficient and effective process. Now, again, keeping in mind that we're really coming from the ICT background. So some of you might think, oh, I've got to write programs, you mean? No, we don't mean that at all. It's not a coding section, although if you feel that's your bent, then go ahead. But these are things that have really tangible business impacts in terms of how people are using their computing environments. That's really what we're targeting here. The other thing that is really helpful for people is that you being personally interested in it. Again, that's where I come back to, it's a problem that you've encountered and you were pained by it. That gets you the most mileage in terms of being interested in solving it and being aware of it enough to know what a good solution is going to look like. And that's why we encourage that. So you want to pick something that you have touched, that you've got personal experience with, and that you're motivated to fix. You're motivated to improve. You're motivated to implement in some way, shape, or form. Other than just, that could be cool, I guess, maybe, if I made that up. Those are the ones that, again, based on my experience, people really struggle with. So look for real life stuff that has a real life problem that you have familiarity with. The more familiar you are with it, the easier it is for you to define what the problem is, right? And the more clearly you can do so, the more quickly you can do so. So again, that just helps you out, and you really want that. Again, if it's become personal, it's a personal pain point for you. That's the best, because you're intrinsically motivated to solve it. Then, we've had. I've worked with people on some of these projects where we had a guy who was actually working through the course, had built a fairly extensive home lab. As some of you have kind of touched on a little bit, or maybe are developing yourself. And he said, my pain point is how I've got it set up to manage and monitor this thing. Because I have to go sit basically in the little closet that I've stuck my gear in at a laptop that's sitting on a chair in front of me and do stuff. And it just is dumb. And so his project, again, coming out of his own personal need, was to say, I'm going to completely redesign how I manage my home lab and make it accessible remotely, give it a proper set of tools on the front end, a dashboard that pulls all the data about all the bits of stuff so that I can actually manage this thing properly. So he had a real issue, came up with a targetable solution, and then we worked with, okay, well, what does that actually mean? Which pieces can we implement, and which pieces are for later? And so we went through the whole process with him. But that was his initial spot. Again, personally motivated to do it, and it was a real thing. I can't emphasize those 2 points enough on that. What makes a foundation for a good project? Some things to ask yourself, and some of this parallels what we're going to get you through in the next 3 weeks. Number one, can I easily summarize my project in 1 or 2 simple sentences? I would say by next Monday, you want to be able to do it in 2 sentences. The first sentence is, this is the problem. Okay, this is what's wrong with the world, or wrong with this process or this thing. This is what needs to be fixed. Sentence 1. Sentence 2, here's what I think I could do to fix it. Okay, real short, real tight. 2 sentences. This is a problem. I think there's a tech solution for it that looks like this. Okay. That's where we really want to get to over the next week, is where you can come in on Monday with your 2 sentences to summarize your project. Then we walk through, okay, let's get into the depth on this stuff. What is that solution actually going to look like? You want some goals and objectives. You guys looked at this in 129. I know you did. You can't fake me out and say, oh, I've never seen that before. I know you did. Whether you did it with me or you did it with Troy, you've done this. So we're going to ask you to go back and revisit that. Let's develop those SMART goals and objectives for the specific things that you're going to accomplish in your project. Okay. After this week, where we're developing that the project summary statement, the next couple of weeks are going to be all about, let's get this stuff written down. Let's get it put together. One of the things that will fit into our idea of what are we actually going to build here is, has this ever been done before? That's a good question to ask yourself. There's a couple of reasons why we push it out here. The first one, of course, is if something similar has been done, I do not have to reinvent the wheel. I can take work that already exists and I can extend it. That's a really good project. Okay, I don't have to start from nothing. I can say, well, this gets me halfway there. Now let's take this generic solution or this thing that was going in this direction and let's bend it this way. And then that's my contribution to the extension of the knowledge, is bending it the other way kind of idea. So has it been done before? Is there something that I can build on already? The other piece of this, has it ever been done before, is that, if the thing that I want to solve has already been solved by someone else and I can just basically go get that, then it's not a project. If the solution for what you want to do already exists, you haven't got anything to solve. So there isn't this idea of somewhere in what you're going to do with your project, there needs to be something that is unique. Now, it can be as simple as we alluded to earlier, that my scenario with the place where I've worked is different, or the place where the organization I'm working with, they've got these little twists on things. Or maybe, there's an established solution, but it costs this much money, and I'm working with a nonprofit, and they don't have that money, and therefore we want to emulate that thing in a no-cost manner. Okay, that's legit. It hasn't been done in a no-cost manner before, even though the solution has been done in a cost one. So there needs to be something in there that's going to make what you're doing unique to your particular scenario. Number 4, can you reasonably estimate the number of hours involved? And we will work with you on this a lot over the next while. This is one of the spots where we go back and forth quite a bit. Because again, for some of the stuff you're going to do, you don't necessarily know or have a good feel for, well, how many hours is this going to take? How big a piece of work is this? And we have, again, just more background with that than you. We have more life experience on those things. And we will be very candid with you around that's too much, or conversely, that's too simple. All right. So we want to be able to reasonably estimate that. We think of the Goldilocks measurement. The 3 bears, Goldilocks, all know the story. This one's too hot. This one's too cold. This one's just right. Okay. This is too big, too many hours. This is too little, too few hours. This is just right. And again, that's based on that constraint that we've got around. We have a very fixed timeline for getting everything in the box and out the door for the course. Okay. We don't have a lot of flexibility where we can say, I'll just take another month. No, that doesn't work. Right. So we've got to make sure up front that we have a pretty good estimate of where this is going to land. And like I said, we will work with you on that because we know you do not have the experience yet to necessarily do that really well. And then finally, do you have a good idea of a path to achieve success? So you might identify a problem and go, man, yeah, that should really get fixed. I don't know. That's probably not going to be a good project for us, right? You need to have some inkling of what direction you could pursue. And we'd like that inkling to be coming from the diploma. That's the thing that makes it your networking project is coming out of the ICT program. You should probably be looking at things where, okay, if this is my problem, I can probably solve that by bringing a virtualization solution into play, or by doing something in IoT, or launching a bunch of stuff from some Linux services, something like that, right? That draws again on the coursework that you've done. If you aren't recognizing how to get from point A to point B, at least at a superficial level initially, it's probably not something that you've got time to go figure out. If that makes sense. So again, we have a little time constraint there. You need to have a high level idea of what the path might be to achieve success with it. Again, we'll work with you on that. We'll let you know if we think that path that you're proposing is viable or not. But again, if you committing, this is the problem I'd like to solve, what do I do? that's a non-starter for us. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to say, okay, well, if you don't have an idea, then this is going to take too long right off the bat. We know that. Okay, so those are 5 questions that you can ask yourself. There's 2 phrases you're going to hear us use a lot today. I'm going to introduce them here. You're going to hit them again. Carl's going to talk about them. Jeff's going to talk about them. I'll probably talk about them again before we're all done here today. And it's the 2 that are in big yellow things on this page. The reason we're going to get repetitive on them is, 1, it's important. Okay, that's why we're repeating it. The other thing about it is that if this is the moment right now where you are brain gapped out and you miss what I say, hopefully you won't be that way when Carl says it or when Jeff says it. All right, so we're going to get 2 key phrases out on the table right now. The first of these is a minimum viable product. So when we talk about a minimum viable product, we're really talking about here within it has a meaning within the project management sense, which is this is the minimum thing that will work, that will solve the problem. We're going to, again, because we're going to have various time constraints and things like that, we're going to set an MVP for your project that is driven by our needs from doing the course. What that means is we'll still define one. Well, you will define one in conjunction with us that says this is the minimum thing that I will deliver at the end of the course. Now, when we say minimum, this is minimum in terms of I'm going to pass. Okay, so right up front, we're going to go in and we're going to say, this is what 50% looks like for me as I work through my project. We're going to define that, like by the end of January, you will have that written down. You will know exactly what your target is to pass. Okay, and then we'll do some other work that will extend that out and say, well, once I make that, how do I get above 50%? And we'll detail what that is. All of that stuff lives in a document called the Concept of Operations, ConOps. So this ConOps is what we're going to spend the next 3.5 weeks building. All the work that we're going to do around, hey, let's write SMART goals, let's, all that stuff, it all becomes part of this Concept of Operations document, including this definition of what an MVP is. And so we get this nice document that is governing what our project is about. And that's our target for the next 3.5 weeks, is to build this thing. Once we have that, then we can say, okay, now we know what we're going to do, because it'll have all those little details in it that we just talked about. I talked about on the slides. So it'll have all those details in it. We'll have it all written out, all nice and clear, all tight, and away we'll go. I have to point out bullet number 3. We said MVP, minimum viable product, that's my 50%. So not getting there does mean you won't get 50%. Okay, so again, this will be a point for us to talk about as we develop ConOps with each of you, and we'll make sure that this is really clearly defined and really clearly spec'd out in terms of what it entails, and you'll know exactly where we're at with that. And with that, okay, so what now? Well, now I'm going to hand it off for the next. But what we're looking at here, again, just quickly, is we're going to focus this week on getting that problem statement done. We're going to work through some things around that. Then we're going to move forward to try and target how do we get this ConOps thing out the door in a way that will work for us. With that, I'm going to hand it back to Jeff, I believe.
That's right. Thank you, Nolan. Okay, so let me try this again. Thank you, Nolan, for that overview. Very, very, very high level overview of what your project, or just what the idea of the course is going to look like for you. Okay, as far as many people come into this course having no idea what a capstone even is, or what a project, or what a term project is, because many of you, this is the first time to ever experiencing something like this. But effectively, every diploma, degree, any post-secondary education that you get has some sort of project that you do at the end. And to us, this course is unlike any course that you've ever had. Okay. And we really try and emphasize that this is kind of your victory lap for ICT. Because you're going to be taking all of the things that you took from previous courses, whether it was with me, whether it was with Nolan, Carl, Troy, Pat, and you're going to try and develop something that you're interested in, that you're proud of, that you can demonstrate to us that solves something, really. So this is a wonderful, wonderful course. Okay. And what I will say is that we're just going to start by going over this course outline, because this is, like I said, a course that you've probably never experienced before. Okay. It's something that's completely different. Okay. Then after we get through this outline, we'll give you guys a little bit of time for some Q&A. Okay. Because there are some things that we have to define. There are some things that we have to explain for this course. Then we'll go into the general timeline that Carl has. He'll explain what the timeline of this course is going to look like. Okay. And where you're going to need to be at each point in time during the course. Okay. Then where we're probably going to finish is Nolan's going to kind of wrap up with that high level explanation of that ConOps document, because that is so important. Okay. For this course. And that probably leads us off with that Q&A. All right. I'll try and keep my eye on the chat as best as I can, but Nolan, Carl, if you wouldn't mind handling that for a little bit, that would be appreciated, because we definitely got to get through this. Okay. So one thing that you'll notice right off the top is that ICT 299 has 3 different instructors. Okay. It has myself, Nolan, and Carl, and we all share this course. Okay. But the idea here is that we're actually going to be project managers for you. Okay. Now, all 3 instructors are going to approve on your project proposal, and we're all going to mark collectively that project as we progress through time and consult with each other about your projects. But you're going to have a main project manager. So each of you, so there's 6 of you. It means 2 of you are going to be assigned to one of us. Okay. So we'll talk about who's going to be assigned to who in a minute or in a few minutes. But that will be your main person that you're going to approach regarding your project. Okay. Now we have, like, your outline does state that our lectures, I put that in air quotes, are 2 hours a week, and your labs are 3 hours a week. Okay. The main idea here is that these Monday afternoon sessions are actually individual meetings between yourself and your project manager. Okay. So effectively in your schedule, we have blocked off 2 hours of time for you to meet with your project manager, which is about 30 minutes every Monday. Okay. And to work on your project. Then on Friday, that time in the morning, and the attendance is mandatory, between 8:30 and 11:30 is dedicated for you to work on your project as well, and to meet with us. Okay. So that's effectively how the format of the course is going to go as we progress. Then on top of that, you're also expected to work 5 hours on your own. Okay. Outside of your schedule. So 5 hours of homework, 5 hours of preparation, 5 hours of research, 5 hours of documentation, 5 hours of execution, whatever that may be. Okay. So you're really going to want to a lot of this course is time management, especially in this final semester for you guys. Okay. So everybody to this point, as far as prereqs are concerned, y'all have done Wine 99. That was a project as a team. Okay. For some of you, it was about a year ago. For others, it was longer. And also 217 with our good friend Nolan. And a co-requisite for this course is 225. Okay. I think you guys should be familiar with a co-requisite. Okay. But really, the idea here is that you guys are going to be working on some sort of project throughout the term. Okay. A lot of these learning outcomes, this is just reading for you guys. But really, as far as we're concerned, this is a lot of professional development for you guys. Okay, so you're managing your time well, you're owning in on your new skills, on some sort of new, exciting or existing product to solve an issue, and you're going to be able to show us and show your peers what you've accomplished at the very end. Okay, and that's really the fun of this course, is that you guys get to actually show us something that you've built. Okay, and there will be like a retrospective piece as well to this course as well. So evaluating how the project went for you over the course from the start to the end, where you would have made changes, where you started to hit some roadblocks, what you might have done differently. Okay, that's all further at the end. Now, as far as the evaluation is concerned, this is going to be very different compared to years previous. Okay, so I really want to dive into how this course is going to be evaluated for the six of you. Okay, so we have 3 items here. Now, these 3 items are pass-fail, meaning that if you deliver them on time, on the date that is indicated here, you will pass. If it is approved by all 3 of us, you will pass. If not, at that point, it's going to be a fail for the course. It's going to result in a failure for the course. So when Nolan talks about this ConOps at the very end of our discussion here, we're going to give you an idea of what that's going to look like. But effectively, over the next few weeks, we're going to be creating pieces like your problem statement, like your problem rationale, those SMART goals, your MVP, all those things, all those components are going to be part of that ConOps document. Okay. And that ConOps document is effectively an agreement between you and all of us 3 as to what you're going to provide. Okay. So it's very, very, very structured. And it's going to effectively outline what you're going to be working on and what you're going to deliver. Okay, and that document must be approved by January 31st. Otherwise, we really can't let you continue with the course, because you're unlikely to get the product completed at that point. Okay, so these dates are going to become very important for you. So we're going to help you define the scope of your project. Okay, and you're going to submit probably a few drafts of this document. Okay, after we give you some feedback, your final approval is going to be just before 31st. Okay, so when you look at the timeline with Carl in a few minutes, that's going to start to make sense for you as well. Okay, now the next point is effectively being your MVP is substantially completed, or your MVP has been delivered. You have completed the minimum viable product by March 7th. Okay, so if you haven't reached that yet, then we're going to effectively say that you don't have the opportunity to pass the course either. Now, the thing that is nice is that the withdrawal date of this course is March 14th. So you're going to know well in advance whether you're going to progress to a pass or not. It should not come down to this for any of you, okay? Because we are going to, like I said, be the project managers for you guys and ensure that your project is moving along. Okay, so we don't actually envision this happening. We hope not, but we do have some set dates in here. Okay. And then that leads into your final product, meaning that you've delivered your MVP. Okay. So these 3 points are pass fail. Okay. And a fail on any of those top 3 is going to lead to nothing more than 49. Okay. Now, as far as the things that you're going to be graded on, because I'm really optimistic and really excited, I really feel that the 6 of you are going to get to your MVP and beyond. We really do. We really, really, really think that you're going to get there. We honestly do. And we've talked a lot about this as well. But the 3 things that you're actually going to be graded on, since these top 3 are pass fail, the things that that will be composed of your mark are something called the technical progress feedback presentation, the final product eval and demonstration, and a retrospective. Okay. So the first one, which is worth 30%, this is effectively your first crack at a demo. You're going to give us a presentation of a live demonstration of your MVP to show to us that you have a working product. Okay. And this is about, 10 to 12 minutes. Okay. 15 max. So everybody's going to do this. This is mandatory. And you're going to do it in front of your peers as well. Okay. You're going to get some feedback from us, which will help you with your final demonstration worth 50. Okay. Where you give us all of the things that are involved in your presentation. So this is about 20 minutes. Or a 20-minute to 25-minute presentation. Okay. That's worth 50% of your mark. Then, like I mentioned before, there's a retrospective piece, which is worth 20. And this is where you talk about the project as a whole, as how it came together, or and like I said, you're talk about speed bumps, what you would change, what worked well, what didn't, all that sort of stuff. Okay. So at a very high level, there's going to be 2 demonstrations worth 70%, worth 80% in your mark, and then some sort of video retrospective. Okay. Now, another thing that I will mention is that you will be delivering documentation to us as well. Okay. So if you are doing something like an IoT related project, okay, like in Nolan's class, we are going to have you submit all of the code that you've done for that project. But also we want your submission package will include your documentation, all the stuff that you've done to build your project. Okay. So there will be a component for that as well. Okay. Are there any questions so far, guys?
May I add something to the presentations?
Yes.
Yes. So for the presentation here, now you see you have 2 presentations. The first one is feedback presentation, and the second one is the real demonstration and the evaluation. However, I would like to stress that the second presentation is like the presentation you did before. Okay, so yes. Because this is not a course project presentation, so we would like to elevate to another level of presentations of your final project. So this will become your you should do it professionally, as well as you are technically telling us what you achieve in your project and what is your product delivery in this project. So don't think you just show us what you have done, what is the product, but you have to have a choreography. You have to just like a salesperson for yourself, okay, to sell us your idea, to tell us what you have achieved, what are the cool things you built in this project. So we would like to see the whole set of choreography as well as your technical content and also your documentation, your preparation for everything. So please don't think of this is just a very basic presentation, because we after that we will talk about the timeline, and then you will see how long you are going to prepare this kind of presentation. So you will see the presentation is not like what you did before.
Okay, so so effectively, you can think of that feedback presentation as your first crack at your ultimate demo. So this is your first crack, okay? And where you're going to get used to presenting, right? You're going to show us some things. You're going to show us a little bit of functionality, but you're going to present it to an audience, right? We'll provide you with some feedback to improve your final demonstration, which is just longer, okay? Which is going to have some adjustments. But effectively, you may have a presentation that's so good for this feedback one that we just tell you to do it again, but just longer. Like, show us more, right? Other presentations are all right, hey, this worked well for you, but we would like to see a change in this manner, right? Make this adjustment, and it can really improve how your audience is progressing. So these are effectively these are self-guided presentations where you're showing off what you've got, right? Because even though we're all instructors and sharing the load, for example, I'm not, and I'm going to have a very high level of what you're all going to be doing. I may not know exactly what you've done, right? So I'll have questions about your project because it's interesting. And same with your, especially your colleagues or your peers, okay? Because your peers are likely to not have any idea about what you're doing either, since these are individual projects, okay? So I'm just looking at the chat here. Thanks, Nolan. Appreciate you looking at that. Yeah, but really, like, this first feedback presentation, that's your first go at it, right? It's intended to help you with your final presentation. That's the intention of it. And so that you can show that you've got something working. Okay. And it will really, when Carl covers the course timeline, you'll see the flow of when you're going to be presenting. Okay. I think that will clear that up for you. Any other quick questions before we move on? Just definitely want to make sure that you guys are clear about how this is. Uzi, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Hi, so I was just wondering, for the technical progress feedback presentation, does it have to be a working, yell loud. Does it have to be a working, finished MVP, or could there be like a few quirks here or there that are missing? Is that okay, or?
We'll let Carl answer that for you in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Because he's going to go over the timeline, and you'll probably see it.
After I show you the timeline, you will see the how it works.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And if it's still unclear, please bring it up again, and we'll definitely answer. Okay.
Yes.
William.
Sorry again, I have a sore throat. Just want to confirm. So the difference from last year is that for your technical progress feedback presentation, you need to have a blank amount done. Or unlike last year where you had a very small amount of leeway room in case this last little bit wasn't working, you had a little bit of leeway room to get it done after that presentation. So that's different this year.
Yeah, this is quite a bit different compared to last year, William, for sure.
Yeah, just want to confirm that.
You bet. Yeah, that's a great clarification. So, just to even kind of highlight something for you guys, effectively, this number 2 on here, March 7th, this is prior to your feedback presentation. Okay. So you'll know, like we'll know well ahead that you won't have your MVP. You won't have something working to show us or to show your classmates, because you're going to see that there's different phases of the course, and that this entire course isn't just building. The first 3 weeks of this course, 3 or 4, are planning and prep. Then there's an execution phase, which is 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
And then the last,
or start the timeline now.
Yeah. Just a sec. We'll just, because we want to make sure that that you guys leave knowing who your project managers are. So your project managers are us, myself, Nolan, and Carl. Okay, and our job is effectively to make sure that your project is moving along. Okay, so because there's 6 of you, you're gonna get to where we can dedicate our resources to help you move your project along. You're still going to be doing the work, okay? But we're going to be asking you and spending significantly more time with you every week to ensure that you've got your weeks planned out, that we get a report from you kind of every Monday so that we know where you're at. Okay. And as project managers, we are going to effectively do the best we can to make sure that it's moving along. Okay. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering who is going to be a project manager for who. Okay. So, assigned to me, you lucky folk, Mary and Uzi are with me. Okay. Shar and Leon are with Nolan. Okay. And Carl has William and Ben. Okay. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now. Yes, Mary, what's up?
Sorry, wrong press.
Oh, okay.
Should
All right.
be okay.
Beauty. Thought maybe there was going to be a protest. Yes, Leon. What can we do for you? What's your question?
I have a question regarding the software that we'll use for project management. Do we use anything, or just how is it done?
Oh, software for project management. Okay, so that is up for you. We won't. Okay, so Leon, this is a great question. Really, really, really good question. So, if you decide to use project management software like Jira or Notion or whatever it may be, invite your project manager to that project. Okay? That is a great way to help manage your project, and we highly, highly, highly recommend that you do that. Okay? However, we aren't going to necessarily be tracking how you manage your project with software. That's not like a really gradable thing for us. That is up for you to decide. Just note that we're going to be providing you with a template for how you're going to be filling in your reports for Monday, for when we meet. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Great question. Anything else, guys, before we take a look at that timeline?
Okay, so.
Oh, you know what? Actually, we didn't cover AI because this is an interesting part of the course. Sorry. Yeah, we should probably highlight this. Okay. So, y'all have seen these tiers before. However, the nature and context and content of your individual project will dictate which tier you're going to be on. So you can create a project that uses AI. Or we had projects in the past that created chatbots, which is a type of AI. Okay, so this is going to depend on what you decide to do. But we will discuss and approve amongst us. Okay. Is there hands up if there's anybody who is looking at potentially doing an AI project? Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. I'll leave it at that. Okay, Carl, I'll stop sharing my screen.
Okay.
And I'll let you take the floor.
Now when you have a look to the timeline, you will have more clear view about your projects. Okay, so first of all, can you tell me? Okay, sorry, I have sold it. But can you tell me how many hours you have to spend in this course every week? Jeff and Nolan have said that. Can anyone tell me how many hours you have to spend per week?
5. You mean outside or in
Total.
general?
In total.
Oh, total. Yeah, so it's 10 supposed to be.
10, right? 10 hours. 5 hours your own work and 5 hours for class time. So in the timeline at the beginning, we have laid this out, okay? So you have to spend at least 10 hours per week, okay? Including 5 hours of class time and additional 5 hours out of class time, okay? So during the class time, we won't use all these 5 hours for discussions, okay? For reporting, for discussions, for maybe only only half hour, or maybe if you have something need more consultation, maybe we can add another half hour. But what we expect is we won't use all these 5 hours class time for your consultation, okay? So you must have some work for the projects during the class time. And also out of the class, you have another 5-hour works on it. Now, let's see. Now, we have three phases of the entire project timeline, okay? The first phase is planning, and the second phase is execution. So basically, for your first phase, okay, roughly you will spend 40 hours, okay? Here is 40 hours, okay? Here's 40 hours for the planning, okay? So in the coming month, in the January, we are going to spend 40 hours on your planning, okay? Now, we will go back to your problem statement. We will go back to how to define your problem. You will see that you definitely need 40 hours to define your project, okay? Please don't overlook it, okay? So you will see you need 40 hours to do your research, to find what is your problem, to define, to fine-tuning your goal, to have eventually a ConOps by the end of January. So last day for the submission of the final ConOps is January 29th, okay? So our first goal of the course is by January 31st, you must have a approved ConOps, okay? If you don't have an approved ConOps, you basically, we will consider you cannot move on to the course because you are not close to pass the course, okay? So during this journey, okay, now we are on January 6th, right? So this is our orientation. And after today, you can start your research of your problem. But on Friday, when we come back to the lab, we will help you do more on the problem statement and do more on the problem deconstructions to help you develop the ConOps. However, what we are looking for is on Friday, you already have some ideas, maybe one or two, maximum 3 ideas about your project, and you definitely did some research. Okay, in this week, remember 10 hours. Okay, so you have to have spent 10 hours on the research of your problem. Okay, and try to decompose the problem and then try to develop your problem statement in next week. Okay, so next week you will have your problem statement and problem rationale developed and approved by Sunday, January 19th. Okay, and then after that, you will have your draft CONOPS on the third week of January. Okay, so these are the dates that we highlighted. Okay, these are the important dates. Of course, these two target is not a hard target. Okay, you can make it earlier or a little bit, maybe 20th is still okay, but don't make it the first target is 30th. Okay, this is not a very hard target, but on the final CONOPS, this is a hard target. Okay, this is a hard goal. Okay, you must meet this point. Okay, before you move on. Is that clear? Okay, so next phase is execution phase. Normally, we have 6 weeks here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 weeks. So basically, you are going to spend 60 hours, okay, of time for your project. So this week, when you're thinking of your project problem, try to think of this. I have 60 hours for a project, okay? If I have 60 hours of time spending on something, what is the problem worth me to spend these 60 hours to do a research, to develop something, to solve that problem? Okay, so this 60 hours is a key for you to define your problem. Okay, of course, you can define a very simple problem. For example, oh, I would like to fix my my Wi-Fi coverage of my home. Okay, you can definitely do something like this, but this is not a 60 hours project. Maybe a 10 hours project. You may add some more access point to it, and then you eventually solve the problem, right? You figure out the blind spot, something like this. This is only a 10 hours project. But if you would like to develop, if you have a 60 hours long period and 6 weeks, and you can spend this time for a problem, try to think of problem that fit to this scale. Of course, you can think of a bigger problem, but I solve part of it. Okay, this is related to our to how you define a problem. This timeline is very crucial, very important clue for you to think of your project problem. Okay, and then next, now after we during this 6 week, you are going to do the project work and then report your progress and also plan for your project of next week. So on every Monday, we are going to a very we will go into a routine to report, planning, and ask questions for your projects. Okay, we are a project manager. We are not going to help you to solve all problems during the project, but we can assist, we can guide you, we can support you, we can give you resources to help you solve this. Okay, we are not the expert of your problem. Okay, so we cannot solve your problem entirely. Okay, we cannot give you a precise solution for your problem during the project. Okay, so you should think of the resources. You should think of what you're long for the project, and what are the resources that we can provide for you. Okay, during these 6 week meeting. Okay, so by March 7th, okay, by this Friday, we should have seen, okay, we would have seen your MVP completed. Okay, so you may have some confusion on this stage. Okay, we have 60 hours projects. Why our MVP complete by 5th week, not by the 6th week? Because MVP is only helping you pass the course. Okay, we are not just wanting you to pass this course. We would like you to get more on top of the MVP done. Okay, so when Lawrence talk about the ConOps, you define the MVP is not your entire project, or MVP is part of your project. Okay, is your minimum that you can achieve to get you past this course. Okay, to get you past the project. But this is not your entire project. Your entire project should have some extra goal or extra product that exceed the MVP that can help you get more marks, more grade on it. Okay, so by March 7, you at least complete your MVP. Okay, and you have one more week. Maybe you can work on your additional product or additional goal line. Okay, of course you can finish your MVP by the third week, and then you can work on your additional goal on the rest of the weeks. Okay, so this is our goal line here. Okay, if you cannot finish your MVP, which means you are likely cannot finish your minimum requirements of the course. Okay, so this is a very important date. This is this is your second hard deadline for this course. Okay, so time management is very important in this 299 course. Okay, so to help you with managing the time, we have something posted on the Teams files. So you can go to your Teams channel, and then you can have we can have some files here. So if you click on files, you will have your weekly progress report. Okay, so this weekly report, we would like to see if you don't use any project management tools, at least you have to finish this report weekly and present to us on Monday. So what we will see is you have different goals completed or not start or in progress set by last week. So the last week, you will have some upcoming goal and milestone you plan for next week or next 2 to 3 weeks. And then you should report is that task complete or in progress, or you have some risk or problem or roadblocks or speed bumps, and you are seeking for some mitigation or resolution. Okay, so this is a very simple report, but it can tell how well you are managing your project. Okay, so this is the execution phase. But this progress report is not only happening on the execution phase, but also on the first maybe from the next week. Okay, we would like to see you have some planning for your project during finding a problem. Okay, so the last phase of your project is 4 weeks. Okay, for the presentation and documentation, and this should occupy your 40 hours, okay? Because 4 weeks, so you have 40 hours of work for your presentation, okay? So on March 17, on March 21st, you will have your technical feedback presentation, which is already after your MVP deadline, okay? So after your MVP done, after the execution phase, you are working on the technical feedback presentation. You have a week to do it. So what Lawrence talked in the chat is that this technical feedback is like you are presenting your project to your teammate, okay, in real life. So you have a shorter presentation, and then we will refine your presentation skills and also your choreography, and then eventually, okay, on the final exam period, you are going to have a full presentation with full, I can say the full show of your presentation, right? And showing what you have done, and showing what you have learned, and showing how cool is your project, okay? So we are really looking for this time, okay? But actually, if you want to do well, if you want to be success in the final presentation, I don't think 40 hours of prep work for the presentation is too much. Okay. Sometimes you may find that this is not enough for you to consolidate your projects, to make your slides. You put everything to practice, to design a choreography as well as your documentation for the submission. These are very huge. Okay, these are not easy tasks for you guys. Okay, and also you need a project retrospective, also due on the same week, on the last week of our course. Okay, so by the end of the term, okay, April 11th, you are not only preparing the presentation, but also you have framed the video, the retrospective video for us, and submit by April 11th together with your documentations. Okay, is that clear? Any questions? Let me check the chat. Yeah. Okay. Any comments and anything want to add from Jeff and Nolan?
Yeah, guys. I just want to really highlight that the hours that we've attributed to each phase of this course are accurate. And we can't emphasize enough how important that planning phase is. That planning phase, that first 40 hours is really going to dictate how the execution phase is going to go for you.
Yes.
And you know, there's a reason why we have these final approvals set before you can start your execution, because effectively, if you're unable to plan the project accordingly or create these documents accordingly, there's just no way that you're going to be able to make up that time in the execution phase where you're effectively putting 60 hours into this project. If you, one thing that we do see in this course is that, or that was really common, is that students would not put enough time or not put enough hours into that planning phase. And then they're setting themselves up for a rough ride. Because let's say if they only put 20 hours into that planning phase, okay, really that they're really 20 hours behind. And then all of a sudden your execution phase becomes 80 hours because you're trying to make up that time. And this course it's not gracious enough for you to fall too far behind. It's really not. So we want to try and, as project managers, prevent that from happening to you.
Yes.
Through the planning phase.
That's true.
We really do not want that we don't want you to experience that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have some suggestion for you guys. Now, this week is our first week. I would like you to have a good start. So don't waste time. Okay. If you have no idea about your problem, okay, spend at least 5 to 10 hours outside of the class time, okay, to do your research, okay, to find your problem, to find the problem of yourself or of your friend or of some company, okay, and then you also need to find a solution, possible solution, and do all sort of research to figure out what is the path of your project, what is the way that you can do the project. Okay, so this is very important phase. Okay, if you cannot define your project very clear for you, and then this is not feasible for you to execute it. Okay, and you will have more roadblocks and more speed bumps during the execution phase. Okay.
The other thing that I want to highlight, though, is that this course is also designed for students who don't have a project in mind yet. So if you don't have a project in mind yet or a problem in mind yet, that is okay. That is why we've dedicated the first week to get you on track with that. Okay. So please don't fret if you don't have a project. When I went through this this capstone project, I did not have an idea until the end of the first week. Now, if you do already have a few ideas, you're in great shape. You really are. Okay, but don't think that you're ahead. You might just have a small advantage.
Yeah.
Really.
Remember
Okay.
that this is your 60 hours project. If you find that the project is not fit in 60 hours, maybe it just fit in 20 to 30 hours of work of you may have some extra enhancement on it. Right? I'm not saying that you should drop this idea, but you should think of how to make it more complicated to become a 60-hour project. Is that clear? Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a bit concerned that there aren't as many questions. I'm a bit concerned.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I stop the screen sharing now and pass the time to Nolan. Right?
I'm going to suggest we need to take 5 minutes just to
Yeah.
stand, walk, do something. If you need a
Yeah.
iffy break, go do it now. So I will pick up in at 3:55.
Right on.
How am I doing here? This is as it goes, right? Yep. That's as it goes. So I do need to off just a little bit. There we go. Okay.
Nolan, your mic is not muted.
Okay, well, welcome back. Yeah, we'll try and have a chance for more questions before we finish up here today. But as the guys mentioned, I want to do a little bit of stuff with what does a ConOps look like. Just to give you an idea, right now we'll probably. No, it's the same background I had before. I just moved to standing. So my
Magic.
So you just have an idea of what in a ConOps, you're not going to pick up today what all the pieces are about and things like that, and that's fine. We're not targeting to have this done for like 3.5 weeks. So this is we're going to set out what our target looks like, so you start to have an idea for it. But we're really just preloading a bunch of the stuff here in what I'm going to go through today. So let me grab share here again and flip to. There we go. All right, so this is the Moodle shell. And if I scroll it down, you'll see there's a section farther down here under concept of operations document. I'm actually going to jump down to this file here called concept of operations document supplemental guide, which gives you a listing of stuff you want to have in your ConOps, and I just want to fly through it quickly. It's here again, and you'll reference it during your meetings with your project manager over the next 3 weeks, I'm sure multiple times. And then I want to actually pull up a couple of examples of ConOps documents that are ones students submitted previously. So they're not perfect, but they're fine, and they get the job done, and they really show clearly the kinds of things we're targeting with some of these. And then there's a bunch in that file, so I'm just going to go through a couple of specific ones with it. So let me start with this concept of operations document. It's just a dense piece of text, so for the most part, I'm going to let you read through the details, but I want to hit this bullet list here. There's a bullet list here, which is basically this. The ConOps document should include at least the following in some form. All right, so depending upon what your project is, you might need to adapt this list a little bit, but this sort of forms a baseline, if you will, and then fleshing that out based on what specific things you want to do. So some kind of statement about the existing system or state. So effectively, what's the problem? This is the scenario that exists right now. What's wrong with it? That's what the statement is about. So we need to put that forward, say this is a problem, or this is whatever it is, however we want to couch that. This is the thing that's missing. The second piece then is a justification or rationale that a new system should be developed or deployed. So what is your project going to achieve? Why is this a good idea to fix the problem? Okay, we live with lots of problems on a day-to-day basis, and the reason we live with them is because fixing them is too costly. So what is it about your idea here that says, no, this works? I can make the solution be worthwhile. What is it you're going to achieve? A description of the proposed system expressed as a user would see it. And that's really important. I know you probably spent time in 129, and I know for a lot of you, it was a real head point to try and get your head around seeing the world from an end user's point of view instead of seeing the world as a text point of view. But we want the description here to, again, because we're trying to get out into a real world enterprise style scenario or something like that. I mean, that's the viewpoint we need to have, is what's the business value of this? What is that person who's in that organization see as the value for it? And I know in the chat already, I saw like Leon had this idea about he's got this a personal thing. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to put yourself into not from the technical, I'm going to do these neat tech things. But okay, so in your day-to-day life as a regular person, not a technician, what's the problem is how you got to couch that then. All right, and that will drive your stuff around your project management structure, your SMART goals, the user stories that you come up with, those kinds of things. This is all drawn right from 129. Now, as Jeff alluded to earlier, we're not looking for pages and pages of SMART goals. Your development work, when you build SMART goals, there's lots of thinking and writing that goes into that. But the actual goal statement itself, and with the user story associated with it, can be fairly tight. And we're probably only looking for 2 to 3 for an MVP, and probably another 2, 3, 4 for your rest of your build out. Okay, a recognition of any known constraints. So, for example, what are the things that are going to hit you? We know we have a non-flexible timeline, and that for many of you, that will become an issue. That, oh, I thought this was going to go better, or I managed my time poorly and now I'm in trouble, kind of ideas. What are the other things like that are problematic? Are there some costs involved? Are there access to hardware that might be involved, or things like that? How are you going to manage your project? What structure are you going to use? So again, in 129, you looked at some tools, but you also looked at, for the most part, you looked at a project management style that used Agile. And that's what we worked with you in 199 as well. This idea that you work in these sprints. As Carl noted, you've got 6 weeks. How are you going to structure your 6 weeks? Are you going to do it in Agile fashion where you've got a set of repetitive sprints? Okay, where in that first sprint, you get a rough cut of your MVP. It's not good enough, but it's getting there. In the second sprint, you're closer. In the third sprint, you've got it and surpassed it. Okay, is that how you want to structure your time? Do you want to use a waterfall type approach? Where, no, we've got a Gantt chart laid out with, on this date I'm doing this, on this date I'm doing this, and this date I'm doing this. And that's how we're going to get from day 1 to 6 weeks, day 42. And make it all happen. Okay, and and then it's very easy that way to know, am I on track to get there? Will you be using some kind of tool to help you manage that or not? One of the things that comes up, and we say we would encourage you to use something that's going to help you with that. It may or may not be a traditional tool like Jira, because one of the big things those tools do is they're there for team communication. And they often have a big emphasis on that. You're not working in a team. So we don't need it to be that necessarily, but we would encourage you to find something that's going to help you organize. And a lot of those tools do help with that. If you've got one you're comfortable with already, we'll work with you on that. If not, then let's talk with your project manager and see what's going to work. At the very least, again, Carl's provided to you already the document for what we want to talk through on Mondays. And even if you just have those on an ongoing basis and you keep them front and center for the week and build into them as you get stuff done, that will even help. Okay, a clear and specific description of what an MVP would look like. This one is really important. As you saw, it's a pass-fail piece. So what we describe here is what we're going to evaluate that against on a pass-fail basis. You don't want to leave room in here for it to be interpreted funnily. You want to be as specific as possible. You want to be as concrete as possible so that you can know exactly when it's done. Check it off, and that one of us going and evaluating it won't have any reason to disagree with you, because it's so clear. The statement is so precise that, yep, everybody says that's exactly what it is. And you demonstrate it and you go, there's no disagreement on, did you get there or not? Yeah, you did, absolutely. Okay, so we want that to be in there. A schedule of different ways your solution could exceed the MVP. So that's those extra and above things. As Carl mentioned, we do want you to drive past that. As Jeff mentioned, we do want you to drive past that. Our goal isn't to have everybody in the course get 50%. Our goal is to have everybody get 100%. That would be fantastic. And we would love to see you do that. All right. So what are those things that go beyond MVP? So we've got a very clear definition of MVP, and then clear definitions of, I have this addition, this addition, this addition that drives beyond that point. Okay, those are important things. A personal professional development goal you will address during the execution of a project. Okay, so within this is the idea that as part of doing this, what's an area that you want to grow in? Not I need this technical expertise that I'm going to need for my project. That's inherent in doing the project. This is much more about professional development. So what makes you a better IT person? Maybe it might be something as simple as, oh, okay, I didn't really get into the project management software, but I'm going to go really learn it for this one. I'm going to really apply it here. Or maybe you've encountered some issues with time management or something like that, and you're going to say, no, this. I'm going to do it differently this time, and here's how I'm going to address that. Not just I've got this problem, I'll try harder. Try harder is not a great response, because if it worked, you'd have done it already, right? So this is a bit about what might you do to develop as a professional, and what steps are you going to try and take to do it? And then other things that are relevant to your project. So I just want to run through that list and say, this is what should show up in a ConOps. Let's have a look at one. There we go. I had them just a moment ago. Now let me go back here. There they are.
So what you guys are going to be looking at are previous ConOps documents. Yep. So this is
real student work.
That's right. Now, just remember that these are effectively your contracts with us. Okay, so you may loathe doing this concept of operations document. You may loathe it because we're going to get very picky with it. It's probably going to take you about 2 or 3 drafts to get it, like at average. Okay? At
least.
Mm-hmm. So because we want it to be so specific, like it's going to be so clearly defined that there is no room for gray here. All right, Nolan, go for it.
You bet. So here's one. We got a title page. It's got a table of contents. You can see the sections we just talked about. It's going to have a rationale. So why are we doing this? Why are we bothering? A definition, a list of deliverables. So what are my products going to be? A set of scope, which is what's in, what's out of what we're trying to do here. Comment on project management and the specific milestones. The Pro-D statement, and then some ideas around, I'm going to need some gear for this. He's got a section for requested equipment at the end. So looks nice. Professional level document. All these are actually, there's a zip file with I think 6 of these in the Moodle shell. I'm only going to go through 2 today just to give you an idea, but you can see none of the sections is all that long. That's what we're working with you on. Is this first part, again, is over the next couple of weeks, is to get a rationale and project definition done. 2 paragraphs. Okay, the list of deliverables. So these are the various SMART goals that we've got. Okay, this first one is what's my base thing? Then as a project enhancement, I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. So this was the one they established for what's their core functionality, their MVP. Now, in doing this, you see the statement here is actually fairly short, and that's all right. What would have happened is, of course, who they're working with in developing this will have been part of seeing the background build of this, and will know some of the backstory on where this statement comes from. Feel free to include your user stories or things like that as you're building out the full goal here. But yeah, this is the idea. What will the functionality include? So again, this is that idea that we need a clear statement around what am I delivering as my MVP. Okay, the scope is, here's what we're going to try and do. What am I going to use for project management? They've used a waterfall type structure where they've set out specific dates where they're going to have certain benchmarks accomplished, and going from A to Z, a statement on their Pro-D piece, and some requested equipment for it. That's the structure that we're looking at. Let me grab a different one. It open in here. It did. Good. Okay. Now this one's intriguing because this is somebody who came back from co-op and had done co-op at Interior Health and said, here's this thing that I encountered and I want to develop a better process for it. And it had to do with them when they were onboarding people with certain processes that they ran through. Somewhere in here. I can't find it quickly now. Yeah, here we go. They had a legacy Visual Basic Internet Explorer system they were using. I can tell you right now, this project was done in the last couple of years. So they recognized, okay, wait, no, this is a problem. And this is, again, coming out of their co-op. they knew this was an issue, and so they said, "I'm just gonna. This is what my project's going to be." They saw it and said, "Bad. That's just easy. I'm going to develop a better workflow for them to do this stuff." Okay, so we've got an MVP of what are we actually going to do, some additional goals. So again, the MVP is one nice tight paragraph. The additional goals, there's 3 additional pieces here. Using Jira's project management and an agile project management methodology. Again, a bit of a schedule here, which if it was agile, I would have expected to see something in here that notes sprints, but some constraints. He did note some that there are some of the features that he won't be able to access because he doesn't have the same backend systems that Interior Health has. So he said a bunch of their stuff works off Active Directory, so I can spoof that. That's not a problem. I can build my own custom one and use it, so it'll work the same way. But other things like Meditech, Access Management Portal, payroll, stuff like that, not access, can't help. But said I can set up checklists to be able to include these functions in the future. So if there are APIs available or things like that around how that software is presented, he can, again, with a forward-looking thing, here's what I can get built. Here's my extensions to it. Here's, if somebody liked this project and wanted to take it, actually implement it, here's what the next steps would be to integrate these other things. Okay, and then some PD experience on it. So that's the idea. You see, we're not talking about a vast port necessarily. There's a bunch of work that's gone into this because some of these statements, especially around building these goals, when you build smart goals, there's a lot of work that goes into getting this down into this tight piece. So somewhere along the line, they've written this much stuff and managed to reformat it and condense it down into simple statements to make them smart. But don't try and write this as your first statement. You won't get there. It will not work. You have to work through a proper smart process to get there. That's not this week, but we'll get into that as we work through the month. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share there. I want to leave us a little bit of time here. Yeah, someone noticed that. I noticed it too. And do you know why it still says N10299? Because it's a PDF. So those of you that haven't encountered my rant on PDFs, they are of the devil. And that's why, right there, because I can't do anything with it. All right. I want to leave us some time to wrap up with questions. So I'm going to stop there. All the stuff is posted. And like I said, going through it quickly now before you've had a chance to really work with the pieces is just to give you an overview. We'll work with you within your project management meetings around how do we really develop the individual bits over the next few weeks.
Now, I would like to address an issue for the returning students from last year. So because this is a new cohort of ICT 299, so you are not allowed to do the same projects as your last year, as your last problem. So because this is this will have some issue or concern about the self-plagiarism. So you have to create a new problem, okay? So you should think of the new problem. But absolutely, if you don't have any new problem in your head or in your mind, it is good for you to start now to do a research on the problems and make better use of the time, and then you can get your problem. You can see how your problem evolve in the next 4 weeks, right? To eventually come up with your ConOps. Okay. Anyone already have ideas?
Yeah, hands up if you have one idea for a project.
Yeah.
Okay, Shar. Ben, maybe. Leon's going. Okay. Uzi, Mary. Okay, William, great. Okay, excellent. Okay.
Good.
How about 2 ideas? This may be a stretch, but I'm curious. What do you mean by ethical,
What?
Leon?
That's yeah. Basically, how are we with piracy?
Piracy?
Okay, sure. I still have ideas, but okay.
So, okay. Let's say there's, or Nolan, you're speaking, but you're muted.
Yes. I'll unmute. I just want to point out that for your final presentations, it is possible that there will be people from outside the class in the room, such as the dean or someone from our program advisory committee or things like that. They have it dropped in before for presentations. So, think about, as I mentioned earlier, if you were trying to impress your boss to get promoted, here's how we can thieve and steal our way to the top be the tack you want to take. Maybe, but it's probably not one we can endorse.
So, my my answer is okay. Let's say something exists, but you want to make it better. We can understand that, but you're gonna have to cite where you're getting stuff from. That's a big part. So, Leon, just even going back from your previous question about your possible idea of making your own streaming platform, are you stealing copyrighted code from Spotify? If that's the case, that's not a project. Or if you're stealing copyrighted stuff from Apple Music, yeah, absolutely. That's not where we want you to go. Okay. And it's a great question, actually, because it's common for students to need some clarification about where's a good starting point for a project. Okay. I like to say that your project does not have to reinvent the wheel. It really does not. Your project can. So Nolan's previous example, where there's at Interior Health, there was a position or there was a system in place where they were doing something in the old-fashioned way, right? PowerShell is not a new technology. This is an existing scripting language. They just used PowerShell to automate it, right? PowerShell, like you're using something that's existing already to enhance a project. Projects that we want you to try and steer away from are making something that already exists that you can buy for like $40 or $50. Okay. So like if there is a product that you could buy for really quite cheap, I know as a student that seems like a lot of money, but for $40 or $50, you can buy something on the market from Best Buy or whatever store, Amazon, whatever it may be, that does everything that you want and more, then it's probably not the great basis or starting point for a project because it already exists. They've already put R&D into their product. They've already basically got it cheaper, better, faster, stronger. Okay.
Now, I can tell some idea for existing solutions. For example, if you find some existing solutions which is open source, and then you would like to improve it, and then you dive into the code, and then you modify the code and make and customize it as for your use, and this is a project. Okay, this improvement is your project. Because you are making something change to something existing, but you are not just adopting the existing solutions, right? So while you're doing the research on the problem, please make sure there is no similar existing solution which is very close to your MVP or your product. Yeah. Yes, response to Nolan's comments. Even you use AI, even we allow you to use some piece of code from AI. You, if you choose programming for your solution, this is very difficult for you to accommodate to adopt the codes from somewhere else, right? Because we are not training you as a programmer throughout the program.
All right, so that is 420. Are there any questions? While I'm waiting for any questions in the chat or what have you, Friday morning, we are going to. I know. So Ben, Ben, Mary, and Leon, and Uzi and Shar and William. Update on the wheel. The wheel has been retired. Yeah. The first year students, they disliked the wheel so much that I could not ignore their collective feedback. Now, there are some second year students in my 128 who are demanding that the wheel be reinforced. But yeah, the first year students didn't find it quite as fun, sadly, Mary. So the wheel has been retired. However, the wheel may be used to pick who presents first. So it may still come up, but we will not be using the wheel for 299
for presentation day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Exciting.
No, William. There was only a couple who despised the wheel. The collective feedback that I got was that everybody generally enjoyed the wheel. At least what they told me to my face.
I told you the truth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't lie. I have a question.
Yes.
So is it like last year where you guys all, if we email you, say our MVPs or whatever, you all have to look at it, or should we just go like, I'm with Nolan, so I should just contact Nolan?
Great question. Okay, so I'll try and answer this quickly. Let me share my window again. Oops. All right, so when you get to that point for your ConOps, there is a submission piece for your drafts, okay? You're going to put that draft into that submission. That way, all three of us can look at it, okay? All three of us will provide comments on that draft, or at least one of us. For sure, your project manager will provide comments, perhaps, and probably a second, maybe not all three, okay? But we'll all look at it. What I do recommend is that after you actually submit, email your project manager that you've submitted so that we know it's in there, because we want to get the feedback back to you as quickly as possible. That's how I ran it last year, and it was successful for those students, because I know it's in there, and I can get reading on it right away. So, Uzi, Mary, as soon as you submit, say, even a draft of your project problem statement and rationale, email me right away. Let me know it's in there, okay? And then I'll let Nolan and Carl dictate how they want your guys to do it, if you want to go the same way. But that really worked out well. Yeah. Yeah, I won't be the middle guy. No, I'll just forward the email to Carl. Yeah, that's a quick button press. All right, any other questions, guys? It's 4:25. We realize we've gone a bit over time, but that was a great one. Shar.
Yeah. Okay, good. So we're live and in the space on Friday morning. And if you get questions or thoughts around stuff, around ideas, especially this week, don't feel free to email us
100%.
about, hey, I've got this idea or that idea. Do you think that's feasible? Kind of stuff. So that on Friday, we can actually be talking about how you flesh out those ideas.
100%. Beauty. Okay, see you bright and early Friday morning, guys. Okay, take care. Have a good night.